What's going on, guys? Illegal Defense. We're going to get into it. Episode 14, getting into bowl season for college football. A lot of exciting games coming up and a lot of games that we could recap from just last weekend. So,
Yeah. We had all the conference championship games. I guess obviously the most um pressing bit of information were all the games that were relevant for the playoffs. We had a bunch of shakeups. And we could start off with one of the hugest games of the week was the Friday night game that uh, had USC and Utah going at it for the Pac-12 championship. Utah, we know, was had a lot of hype coming into the season. They stumbled a bit, which kind of took them out of playoff consideration. But they were the only team to beat USC this year, and they match up with USC in the playoffs. If USC wins, they get in. If they lose, they're out. It was pretty simple, and yeah, Utah got the job done. Really came to play. Really took it to USC. Caleb Williams had a bit of an injury, kind of hurt his mobility in
yeah,
the pocket, kind of took that aspect of his game away. He still had a pretty good game, but yeah, Utah really came to play here and played a complete game on both sides of the ball.
yeah,
Defensively, they came back and really put the clamps on USC for a while after being down early in the game, and that allowed their offense to kind of get things rolling, and they were able to score enough points to get up to USC's level, and then by the end of the game they just kind of it
they
just
just ran away with
snowballed,
it.
and yeah, and just kind of
Yeah,
ran away with the game late. So but yeah, great for Utah. It was the first of the Power Five games to be played this week of conference champions, and it was a major shakeup, and everyone was waiting to see how Saturday was going to go as a result. So yeah, look, we talked about Utah a lot this year.
yeah,
Solid team, great coach team. Kyle Whittingham is one of the better coaches in college football. Doesn't get a whole lot of name recognition and respect as far as media wise and maybe from other fan bases, but
right.
the people who know college football know how good he is. It's probably because he's just been at Utah for so long, and Utah is not, maybe thought of as a top tier program.
Right.
But look, he takes those guys, and he
Gets some playing, and
yeah,
they
he
play like really gritty football too.
right. And this year, they were actually a little less grittier than maybe the usual Utah team, but and that's maybe why they ended up dropping 3 games during the regular season. All those games they lost, by the way, were on the road. They could have easily been in the playoff hunt. A lot of people had them making the playoffs to start off the year, but yeah, I mean, like I said, major shakeup with USC being 4 to close out that playoff, win you're in group after Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2, TCU number 3. We had already had the stage set for Ohio State at 5, Alabama at 6.
Right.
Utah winning pretty much had before
Saving them
Saturday
out.
started, Ohio State knew they were pretty much in. Kyle Whittingham even on the post game show, it was mentioned about Ohio State, and he said right on camera, "You're welcome, Ryan Day." So yeah, they Utah knew what they were doing. They knew what they were playing for. They definitely spoiled USC's season.
Yeah.
If you're the Pac-12, that kind of hurts. You could have had a team in the playoff. That was your one and only shot, and Utah just shot them down. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can move on to the Big 12 title game. We had number 12 Kansas State going to playing against number 3 TCU. These Big 12 championship games last year was a close one. We saw that come down to a pretty much a goal line stand last year, and this year was similar. TCU and Kansas State played earlier this year. This is another rematch, and TCU got the better of them. TCU kind of they were they were down, and then they really shut down Kansas State, came all the way back, and then ran away with the game.
Yeah.
Um, Kansas State had revenge on their mind, and they got it. This Kansas State team with a dynamic offense, like most teams in the Big 12. They can score points, and it just felt like this was the game that TCU's luck kind of ran out.
Yeah.
Look, TCU's a solid team. If you probably asked everybody who was the top four teams of the country, some people might not pick TCU. That being said, I do think they deserve to be in the playoffs based on their performance all year.
Yeah.
That's just how this thing works. And yeah, I mean, they lost, but we now saw afterwards the committee didn't drop them any rankings. They stayed put at number 3. They make the playoffs. So still, a good accomplishment for TCU. And yeah, they have a shot to continue their season and keep fighting. For some more wins here and a shot at a national championship, which would be huge for a TCU program. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think. To start off, TCU is gonna play Michigan next, and
They're probably gonna get mowed by Michigan.
yeah, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, that's kind of how this thing goes. We saw teams like Cincinnati get in last year; they get destroyed by Bama right away. It's one of the reasons why some people aren't into this whole playoff expansion, but
Yeah.
that's a story
That's a
for
whole
another
nother
day.
Yeah.
Third game, we could roll into the SEC championship game. We had number 14 LSU playing number 1 Georgia, and Georgia, they just handled business here. This was a game that I thought LSU would have covered the point spread, just because Georgia had a tendency to kind of let off the gas a little bit for some of these, better teams, so to say. And, LSU did have a chance to kind of have a backdoor cover here, but, late turnover ripped that away. They lose by 20 points, 50-30. And, yeah, Georgia stays number 1, number 1 seed in the playoff. Good win for Georgia. Undefeated season. I mean, look, they haven't lost, in so long now.
Like 2 years,
right? Now. Yeah, so it's huge accomplishment for Georgia. Kirby Smart has those guys ready to go, and look, I mean, I'm sure that Georgia team thinks this national championship is theirs. So, whoever wants it, they're gonna have to rip that thing from their hands.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. I mean, we'll get into it obviously later on in the episode, but I think even. I mean, I thought that LSU would be able to cover their spread as well, but I mean, straight off the bat with that field goal recovery, it's like everybody was just not alert. It was just, I mean, that's bad coaching in general. You know, you just let the team run it back for a touchdown. Nobody's even running, making any effort, and it's just like, I don't know. I mean, this was pretty much a gimme for Georgia, and I think Georgia's just ready for the playoffs and have their ears pinned back for their first opponent.
And for LSU, I mean, good for them for even making it here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Nobody would have picked LSU to win, that division technically,
Right.
and get to the conference championship game. Everyone thought Bama was, going to be a juggernaut this year, the way Georgia is, and LSU beats Bama. They got a bunch of quality wins. We saw them even struggle in the first game, which looking back, imagine if they could have won that game, how much different the season would have been. They, might have been squarely in this playoff hunt. What we did get to see from LSU was the quarterback play from Garrett Nussmeier when Jaden Daniels went down. That has LSU's fan base a little bit, split in terms of who they want to see for next year. But we did see, as good as Jaden Daniels has been, got him to this game. Garrett Nussmeier is a way more better passer of the football, and that's something that could open up their offense. So some people might think that there's more upside going with Nussmeier over Jaden Daniels. We'll see. We have the transfer portal going on, which we'll get into. So yeah, if both guys are even there next year, that might be something to keep an eye on and see who wins that quarterback battle, which probably wouldn't have been a quarterback battle
Right.
for anybody if Jaden Daniels didn't get hurt and Nussmeier wasn't able to put up a nice performance in terms of passing yards against an elite defense like Georgia. And yeah, we'll roll right into talking about the transfer portal. And at this point, it's already over 1,000 kids in the transfer portal. Over 1,000
Over
kids
a
in the
thousand is just
transfer portal,
crazy.
which is insane. There's people who estimate there might be upwards of 3,000 kids in the
That's
transfer portal.
insane.
And
Think about how many football teams, just in general, that is in
right,
itself.
right. And so, yeah, this is gonna be a wild experience, right? We've seen people transfer before, obviously, before all these rules. We've had, Jalen Hurts was a transfer, Joe Burrow was a transfer, Justin Fields was a transfer, right? But these guys had to go through, obviously, navigate it differently before you were just allowed whenever you wanted to transfer. You had to get either certain permission to play right away, or you had to
Right.
sit a year. Then it turned to you didn't have to sit a year, and we saw a lot of people move around last year after the regular season. And yeah, this year is just going to be wild with the inclusion of NIL. Some people are saying there's going to be a lot of kids who want to stay, but they're going to get in the portal to field offers.
Yeah.
And even they might even go back to their school, but they'll make their school pay them more money to come back.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of craziness that's going on with this transfer portal. The problem with the transfer portal is this: if you're one of the better players, like if you're like a former 5 star or 4 star, you're probably gonna be fine,
Right.
right? You're gonna find a place to land, even if one, you didn't play all year. People are still banking on your potential. If you did play, even better, you have performance to back it up if you
And
played
you have
well.
film on
If you
top of
didn't,
that.
if you didn't play that well, people would still give you another chance, especially if you were at like a Power 5 school. You'd probably get another shot at a Power 5 school, or you could drop down to one of the one level down and play maybe in the MAC or something like that.
Yeah.
They'll take a chance on your potential as well. If you have issues, right? If you maybe were labeled kind of a troublemaker or a headache, and you have this talent, somebody's probably still going to give you a chance. But it gets iffy when you're not one of these guys, one of these, select few, maybe the top 200 in every class.
Hmm.
You got to be careful when you leave you go in the transfer portal, because people think, oh, I'm going in the transfer portal. It doesn't mean I'm leaving my team, but I get to look at my options. But what
Right.
happens is schools only have so many scholarships. You get in the transfer portal, maybe they find some players better than you. And by the
Yeah.
time you want to come back, there's no spot for you anymore. And then now you got to find another team. And then it becomes this game of, musical chairs. The
Yeah.
last one's out.
Are
Good
stuck
luck.
in the portal.
Because you got to remember, we have a bunch of kids from high school coming in every year, and they're taking scholarships as well.
Right.
Right? So, okay, you get in the portal. Now school X has some more scholarships. Maybe they're able to get another commit in. Maybe they're able to get another transfer at another position
Right.
that they value higher, because maybe they have some guys there that they're fine with. So
I think another aspect of it too is you have JUCO schools.
right,
So it's like that's, not, I mean, the transfer portal is there's a lot of great things that come from the transfer portals. You're able to get different opportunities. You're able to, capitalize on yourself way more than you were able to before then. But again, it's oversaturated in a sense, and it's like, even aside from just the transfer portal students that are on teams already, like I said with the whole JUCO situation, it's like you have kids that are 5 star recruits in JUCO. They just had some type of problems and they're trying to get back on track, and it's like, who's to say that, maybe you're a four-star recruit and you enter the portal, see what happens, and try to see, oh, maybe I could get a better offer, but the JUCO kid gets a better offer over you, and now you lost your spot. And it's
Mhm.
like, I think it's we're entering a landscape where obviously you're gonna go where your opportunity is best. And I think it's great that now that we're in this state, we have these opportunities in general. And then you have also the cons of it, where it's like, yeah, you can enter, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get to another team. And then it's like, and then on top of that, it's like, coaches, if you enter the portal more than one time, coaches are going to kind of look at you like, all right, well, if we're recruiting you and we're bringing you in on a scholarship and you're going to just enter the year after, it's like, what are we really doing here?
Yeah, and I think, you brought up a good point about even just like JUCO players, right? So for instance, if you have a guy that he always wants to go in the portal every year, he wants more money. I mean, you're not at college for very long anyways,
Right.
right? But now you have an opportunity as a program, as a team to say, all right, let's just get another guy in here who's hungry, who
Yeah.
wants this more than him, right? Because that's how it could get flipped around on you.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's how
well,
the
this guy
leverage
wants to
is.
be here, and he doesn't need all these extra things that you need. We
Mhm.
don't need to go in our pockets and pay him to play football. He just wants to play football.
Yeah.
He's hungry for this opportunity. And so that's where sometimes maybe as a better player, you think maybe you're entitled to more things and it could come back to bite you. Now, that's not all of them, right? There's some good players who are, just solid people, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to get paid more if you are one of the elite athletes, right?
Right.
If you're a Caleb Williams, right, you have
More than
you have
likely
like
have.
superstar as in terms of like name recognition, in terms of marketability, you should be paid, right? So people like that, I don't think anybody would have a problem with that, like if he's not getting paid enough or somebody of that caliber, it's like, okay, if you go in the transfer portal so you could get more money, it's understandable. If you're some cornerback for, any random SEC school and nobody knows, but maybe you're good, but nobody,
Nobody really knows of you.
outside of your fan base, people don't know who you are, and then you're going into the portal. I mean, look, there's a million corners, bro. I mean, you could go to Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
You
You could
find
get a
corners
lot of
everywhere, right?
corners. Yep.
So you better hope that your skill backs up your willingness to go in the portal and kind of create not chaos, but just some stress, right? Because you have to remember everybody's human here, right? It's great that the players are able to get paid, and it's good that they have a way to get what they want, but you have to also remember, as a coaching staff, you need to make sure you're set as a program. This is what
Yeah.
you get paid to do. You don't have another job. You don't have anything else you're focused on. There's no excuses for you. You're supposed to be doing all you can to make sure your team is good, and they're going to have to navigate this and do what's best for them too at the end of the day.
Right.
And that might mean there are some casualties like we talked about in the portal. So, yeah, all things to watch. Things filling up quickly. We have some people already moving to other schools, and we'll see how things are going. One school in particular, talking about USC, this might be another school with a lot of transfers. Is we could talk about Colorado
Right.
and how Dion, aka Coach Prime, takes this Colorado job as a head coach. Now, this was a bit of a surprise in terms of, I don't know who would have thought Deion Sanders would have took this Colorado job
Right.
a year ago, a few months ago. I mean, even 2 weeks ago, right? The Colorado job got floated as like a potential place that was in contact with Deion Sanders that was gonna maybe make him an offer to come coach there. I didn't see this as a place that he would go
Yeah.
to.
It doesn't seem to be a fit for him.
I thought that Dion would probably just stay at Jackson State if there wasn't a better offer, but it seems like, and I watched some clips of the YouTube stuff that they put out, that follows Deion Sanders all the time and his teams and all that. I gotta say, it seems like it may be, there's a better fit there than what the public anticipated.
Yeah.
It seems like Dion is really happy to be there. It seems like he has a plan and he knows what he's going to do. It seems like the administration is kind of in line with Dion and what he needs to succeed there, and is willing to give him everything that he wants, because
Right.
that's the only way that he's going there. And he spoke very highly of, I think it was the athletic director there, and about their connection and how important it was that they were working together, and the how it was almost like a I don't remember the words he used, but pretty much saying it was almost destiny that he reached out to Dion and for them to, work together and to build this program.
Yeah.
Colorado is a program that, by the way, many, many years ago was in title contention, Heisman candidates, all this stuff. So they have a pretty solid history.
Right.
The problem with Colorado, why they've probably been so bad for a while, is they're kind of in a state that doesn't have a whole lot of good recruits. Like there's good recruits everywhere, but it doesn't compare to
the West Coast.
Yeah,
or
it doesn't
down
compare
south,
to it
Florida.
doesn't compare to those places. But when you have Deion Sanders there, I mean, you've seen even Jackson State. That place was more attention than I ever seen it. I mean, I never cared about Jackson State. I didn't even know really, I don't think
Much
most people
about it.
know the difference. Yeah, I didn't know much about it. And I don't think most people even knew the difference between Jackson State and Jacksonville State, right?
Mhm.
People thought Jackson State was in Jacksonville, not in Missouri, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think it's a great thing for Colorado. At first, like in a first glance, you're like, okay, why would Dion go to Colorado? But for Colorado, it's like, okay, we got a big name splash. I'm sure we're gonna be able to, Dion. There was reports that he helped out Jackson State with their facilities outside of his own pockets.
Mhm.
So to see that devotion from a coach, and obviously he was granted this opportunity in Colorado, it's like where you have that support. I'm sure the budget at Colorado compared to Jackson State is way more.
Yeah, I mean,
lucrative,
Dion
so.
already said in one of the clips that I saw that the stuff that the facilities they have in Colorado, I mean, he was talking to those kids and he said, "Look, you guys don't even know what you have here.
Mhm.
The kids that I have in Jackson State would kill to be in a place like this."
Yeah.
I know money wise, what he's getting paid, it goes from he had like maybe like 300,000 up to now he's looking at like 5 million, right?
Yeah.
It's huge jump in
yeah.
pay. Huge jump in the quality of facilities, in the amount of resources he has. Obviously, like we said before, Colorado's administration is clearly backing him, and at least at this point, saying they're willing to give him everything he needs to succeed there. Deion's going to be able to bring all kids from all over the country. All of a sudden, Colorado is a school that's going to be able to recruit nationally
Mhm.
because of Deion Sanders. And similar to Lincoln Riley and how he was able to use this portal, Deion Sanders is going to, he said it to the kids. He was telling them straight up, like, look, some of you guys are here, and we're going to work you guys hard, but we know some of you guys are going to leave. We expect some of you guys to leave. There was a bad culture here. We're going to pretty much try to make you quit to see if you have what it takes to stay here.
Yeah.
And he said straight up, I already have some positions kind of filled. He said, I'm bringing luggage with me, and it's
Yeah.
Louis. So, you know what that means. You
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
have it. His
son.
his son is coming. Travis Hunter is probably going to end up coming as well. And a few other solid players. Kevin Coleman, one of the other better receivers from last year, that was a surprise commit to Jackson State shortly after Travis Hunter. He's probably going to follow Deion as well. So they're going to have some guys there.
Yeah. So,
And they should be able to, from a 1-win team this year, drastically improve that program.
yeah, for sure.
In a year. I mean, I on one hand, I wouldn't be surprised if they were still under 500 just because of how big this rebuild is going to be.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't be surprised if they were, an 8-win team either.
Right.
They could completely turn that thing around that fast. So.
Yeah, well, when you see what he's done at Jackson State, and he's kind of turned that program around, and with the limited resources, he's been able to do that. So now Deion has the resources, and we all know Deion Sanders to just have a standard of excellence that other people don't have, and that's what sets him apart from everybody else, player wise, and now he's proving it in a coaching matter. Will there be struggle? I think 100% there's going to be struggle. But the fact that he, just like you mentioned, he's going to push these kids to the point where some are going to go to the portal and some are going to survive. And that's where you separate the real gritty players that are gonna actually buy in, and you know what, we're here to stay. We're here to prove ourselves and be a part of this change. Versus, oh, we weren't doing this before. What the hell am I gonna deal with this for? And get rid of the few bad apples.
Right.
So it'll be good to see what Dion can do. I believe in Dion. I believe that he'll be more than able to turn this program around. And again, who's to say there's a different opportunity? You know, obviously he just got to Colorado, but we've seen so many coaching
Yeah,
changes over the years.
we
So
know how the coaching thing works, right? So, and like he said, as a coach, you either get fired or you get elevated.
yeah,
And so, in this situation, he's elevating himself to a better coaching position in a place that's going to give him the resources he needs. He talks a lot about the importance of his staff and how he needs the money to fund his staff to be able to have the players play at their best, have the best recruiters, do everything that's needed. There's talk about Mike Zimmer potentially being his defensive coordinator.
wow,
Which
that's stellar.
yeah. So look, Dion knows what he's doing. I don't know if that rumor's true or not, but he clearly knows what he's doing, and he'll find success at Colorado, however that looks like. And but yeah, it'll be certainly a spectacle to watch. Also, I would say that for some reason, some people were saying that Dion's a sellout because he took this job, which is kind of hilarious. All he did for Jackson State, for a school that nobody cared about, to
Right.
like at least the masses wise, you know what I'm saying? And act like he's a sellout just because he left. It's like, look, how much can he do there? Look, it's a HBCU. We get the importance of it. But if a better opportunity presents itself,
Yeah,
He
why
doesn't.
not?
I don't see, like, what does he have to do? He has to stay there his whole rest of his career to prove that he was trying to
That
help
his
people.
value, yeah.
Like we talked about, he paid for some of these things out of his own pocket. He did
Right.
everything he could to
Put them on the map.
put
I'm
them on the
sure-
map. He walks around on a daily in Jackson State apparel. You know what I mean?
Right.
He did all he can for this program, and he's leaving it in a better place than he found it. And he had recommended that one of the coaches that he had on his staff be there and be the one to take over as the head coach. So not only did he help push this program into a higher level of notoriety, right? Because now you got to think of it from a recruiting standpoint. You got a letter from Jackson State. You know where that is now.
Right.
Where before you might have not known where it was, right? So so you put this program in a better place. They have better facilities. They have this legacy, even though it's not there, of Deion Sanders. I don't know how good this coach is that he wants to be the head coach and is recommended they hire as the head coach. But if they keep
You just
him,
put another black man
Yeah,
in
you-
position
yeah, exactly.
of power and in
Right.
position for an opportunity to possibly do the same thing that he did.
exactly.
basically.
So yeah, it all goes in hand.
Yeah, to say Deion this time is just insane. And with all he's done, it's just like, I mean,
Right.
even, I mean, we'll move on to the next topic, but even outside of just HBCU, it's like just for the culture in general, it's like, come on. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
So with that, we'll get into some preview games. And I guess we'll really just preview these two playoff matchups, huge matchups coming up right before New Year's. We'll start off with number 1 Georgia playing number 4 Ohio State. This game is going to be played in Atlanta, and this is going to be the night game of New Year's Eve. So this is going to be an 8:00 Eastern time game, 4:00 Pacific time. And yeah, look, a lot of things going into this game. One, if you're Georgia, you got to feel like you kind of got screwed to have to play Ohio State as the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Not saying that Ohio State's gonna win or dominate them or anything like that, but they certainly have probably
The
the
best
highest potential in this playoff outside of Georgia, or potentially more than Georgia, right? Georgia has kind of shown more all year, and that they've been the number 1 team for a reason. But Ohio State's offense is so dynamic when they get it going, and they also show the ability to play, very well on the defensive side of the ball as well. So, yeah, I'm sure it. Look, if Georgia had their pick, they probably would have took TCU, no problem.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm pretty sure they would have took Michigan, no problem, over Ohio State as well, and saying, okay, we just shut down the run and make sure these receivers don't, destroy
Don't do
us
what
in
they
one-on-one
did to
coverage
Ohio
like they did.
State.
Yeah, you already have the blueprint of what not to do. So, yeah, they have probably their least favorite matchup of the four. But yeah, look, they're like I said, this game is in Atlanta, in Georgia's backyard. It's pretty much a home game for them.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like 80% plus Georgia fans there.
20
It's
Ohio State,
yeah,
most likely.
so it's gonna be a zoo. They're gonna have a crowd behind them. Kirby Smart has proven he has his guys ready. The other factor is these Georgia players. A lot of them weren't the starters last year, so it's not like you have the same type of hangover.
Experience,
Right?
so.
These guys are hungry. They've been having to prove all year. It's not like, oh, we already have a national championship because of us. No, a lot of them, they got a national championship because of all the guys that got drafted. So these guys are still hungry. It's not the same type of complacency you might see with other teams, like for instance, some Bama teams that they win it as, when you win as a sophomore and then you come back as a junior or, whatever.
Right.
It's a little different. You could have that kind of a letdown. I don't see that kind of a letdown happening. That being said, this is a 6.5 point spread at the moment. So Vegas clearly thinks it's a one score game. And yeah, I could easily see this going a number of ways. I can see Georgia dominating this from start to finish, and Ohio State just can't get things together, and it's a total Georgia domination in Atlanta. I could also see this being a close game and going either way, and I can see Ohio State getting hot, getting up big early, and Georgia not really being able to climb back in this game. Like, we know Georgia was able to score a lot of points at certain times this year and be one of the better offenses in college football, but I mean, it's pretty clear. Like, when you watch offenses, Ohio State's passing attack when it's on is on another level.
Stellar.
And look, if you have a guy like Marvin Harrison, I don't care who those Georgia DBs are. If Stroud and Harrison could keep hooking up for some big plays, could make a huge problem for a team like Georgia. So, yeah, this is probably the game of the playoffs. To be honest, I would think whoever wins this game is probably going to be favored in the championship.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
Even if you get a rematch of Ohio State Michigan, Ohio State, it's hard to beat a team twice. We know that, and we saw Utah do it at USC, and I picked Utah, even though we know they had to beat USC twice, but they also showed the ability to do it last year, and it was just kind of a feeling that USC, with their luck with the turnovers, they were like plus a million in the turnover margin. That was gonna maybe not work out in their favor, right? A game with Michigan and Ohio State. Ohio State is the more talented team, right? They have the better recruits. They have more depth. And like we talked about, Michigan was just able to keep hooking up for long touchdowns. 60-something yarder, 70-something yarder, like 5-6 of those.
And one was a missed tackle. The other was just blown coverage. It's just like...
And so now they made their mistakes. They know what they have to do not to do that. If they don't give up those touchdowns, they win that game, no problem. So yeah, and in this situation, if they were to beat Georgia, they have shown that they're back on track.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. If you could beat Georgia, then you could mollywop
right.
Michigan or TCU.
So if Ohio State wins, they're probably going to be favored to win the national championship. If Georgia wins, they're going to be favored to win the national championship easily. So yeah, this is probably the game that's going to determine the winner. And but yeah, so good for college football for putting this game as the night game. The place, I'm sure, will be crazy. It'll be fun for everyone to watch. Right
Especially
before
on
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right before New Year's. So 61.5 point over under. So there's expected to be plenty of points scored in this game. And yeah, definitely the what I'm most excited for, probably out of the whole college football playoff, is this game. It's gonna feel like a championship game,
Yeah.
no doubt.
It would be nice to see if all, I mean, it would, if all cards are played correctly, it would be great to see Ohio State rematch Michigan in the national
Look,
championship. And
yeah,
that's a possibility. That's
y-
very much a possibility.
yeah. Look, if Ohio State wins and Michigan wins, and they have to play in the national championship, that'll probably be the highest rated college football game of all time.
Yeah,
It will
for
be
sure.
it will be insane. But yeah, like we said, Michigan as well. We'll move on to Michigan's matchup with TCU. Um, this is number 2 versus number 3 seed. Number 2 Michigan, number 3 TCU. 9-point spread in favor of Michigan. Over under of 59. This seems like a game where Michigan should be able to just completely run all over TCU. That's what I would expect to happen. So yeah, I don't know what much to say about this game besides good luck to TCU. Look, but that's not saying TCU can't win either. It's just not the most likely
It's not in
outcome,
their
right?
cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the most likely outcome. The most likely outcome is Michigan keeps doing what they're doing. They have a solid defense, one of the best defenses in the country, one of the best running games in the country, and almost in the way that Ohio State has better recruits than Michigan and probably should be favored in almost every game they play. Michigan has that same advantage over a
Against
TCU,
TCU.
right? There's levels to the type of recruits that these guys have, and yeah, not to mention Jim Harbaugh just showed his coaching acumen against Ohio State and how he was able to prepare and find the weakness in the team to overcome them. So in a game that they'll be favored. They've been solid all year. They've had some tight games though, but they've been favored all year, and I would expect Michigan to come away with this win one way or another. My lean would be that they probably cover that 9-point spread. I wouldn't put money on it, but that's what I would probably think is going to happen. And yeah, that'll kind of wrap up our college football coverage for this episode. We'll bring some more stuff as things get closer. Obviously, we have bowl season coming up, a lot of other great matchups, and then as we get closer to the playoffs, we'll kind of go back over and talk about some of these things as more storylines unfold. So, yeah, like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.